focus of the Effective Service Manager course is to develop managers by giving them the necessary skills to get the very best out of their teams. But I believe before they can become effective team managers, they must first become effective self-managers, and the program is designed to achieve both objectives. It's designed in a modular format so as to enable assimilation of information and implementation of action plans and their follow-up over a period of time. I've found over the many years I've been doing this that this is by far the best and most effective way of transferring information, knowledge and new skills. Each module builds upon the last one, with new skills being strengthened and developed over the course of all three modules. And the principle of Kaizen, continuous improvement, is introduced in the first module and is constantly emphasized and reinforced throughout the whole program. In terms of the makeup of each of the modules, Module 1 is, one of the key themes of Module 1 is centered on the whole concept of motivation. And as I'm sure you're aware, motivation is one of the most critical skills for any of us to master, particularly for managers. In fact, the word motivation itself is one of the top 6 most used words in company documents, and yet it's still not fully understood by many managers. In fact, a recent survey indicated that 75% of chief executives and managing directors felt that their workforce could become better motivated. So, understanding and utilising the principles of motivation is one of the key skills for an effective manager to master. And to that end, we spend a good deal of time covering all aspects of motivation, from individual motivation to team motivation. And although we explore the traditional and popular theories of Maslow and Hertzberg, etc., we also utilise some NLP strategies and adopt a practical approach so that they don't just focus on the theoretical side, but we go away with concrete practical methods to go and implement when they get back in the workplace. Following on from motivation, we spend some time now analysing each manager's particular management style, highlighting the relative strengths and weaknesses so that they understand the difference between task orientation and people orientation and when to apply them. The last 2 sections cover team building and coaching. The team build section is basically an extension of the motivation factors from an individual, and we just roll it out to how you can galvanise a group of people and get disparate groups of people to come together and work together as a unit. We finished the first module with an introduction to the skill of coaching and counselling. It's essentially a very powerful technique, and I believe it's going to get more and more valuable as a useful tool for managers to enable them to transfer their skills on an ongoing basis, on a one-to-one basis, also in the workplace. At the end of Module 1, each delegate is then tasked to create an individual action plan based upon what they've covered throughout the 3 days. They can do that by themselves or in consultation with me, and the idea is that they go away and they implement their action plan in the interim between Modules 1 and Module 2. Beginning of Module 2, then each manager is expected to do a short presentation based upon how their action plan went. So essentially what we want to know is what worked, what didn't work, what happened, what they could have done better in future, and just basically give some feedback to myself and the rest of the group as to how things have gone. So Module 2 begins with the presentations and feedback, and then we continue from where we basically left off on the first module by developing further the coaching and counselling skills, leading into conducting development talks with a team. Leading on from that, we introduce the very important concept of effective goal setting and why it's so important and why it's critical, frankly, for personal and business success, and how we go about doing it effectively. One of the biggest themes of the second module is the area of communication. It's a huge field, and poor communication skills and systems are the principal causes of the majority of problems companies face, as I'm sure you're aware of. So what we do, we look at the primary obstacles to effective communication, and then we highlight the keys to good interpersonal and good interdepartmental communication. Finally, Module 2 comes to an end by looking at key ways of giving effective feedback, both positive and constructive, so that the team member can more readily adapt his or her behaviour. Module 2 again ends with formulating their action plans. Module 3 begins with the presentation of those action plans, and then the first day of Module 3 essentially is focused on the area of time management and the principles of good time management, which is another of the core skills of all effective managers. In fact, it's probably the major management skill that seems to need the most work put into it. In this section we analyse the delegates' effective use of time through use of a time log, which they completed during modules 2 and 3. So basically they log everything they do in the work environment over a period of time, and they bring the results back to us so we can analyse it in depth and identify specifically where they're using their time at work and where they could be better placed using it. In terms of this, we also highlight the critical difference between being efficient at work and being effective. And many managers get these two confused. And in fact, there are many managers who are very efficient at what they do, but they're not very effective because what they do doesn't actually impact the bottom line in a way that it could do. The delegates are then tasked to identify their own 3 top time stealers and create action plans to deal with them. And in line with the best time management principles, we then move on to how to run effective meetings, so we get the maximum benefit from what are notoriously the worst managed aspect of organisational life. So much time, money and effort is tied up into, frankly, what turn out to be very, very poorly run meetings. So we essentially we equip them with the skills so that they go away and they can get the maximum value out of meetings in the shortest period of time. The art of delegation is then introduced, another effective time management tool, obviously. So we show how the benefits to both sides of the delegation process and how to do it effectively, and what are the pitfalls to delegation, and traditionally, why delegation hasn't worked in the past. This is followed by looking into the correct method of handling disciplinary situations and linking this to another communication skill, that of transactional analysis. This is a very useful skill and another useful communication skill for the management kind of communication toolbox, if you like. It enables another dimension to the manager's ability to deal with potentially difficult situations. We then finish with an introduction to interviewing and induction. See, most, if not all, managers are involved in recruitment and interviewing skills at some stage, but many have no training whatsoever in this critical area. And as you're aware, poor interviewing skills are often a key factor in later problems that occur with some members of staff. So we aim to minimise that problem. And finally, at the end of Module 3, another action plan is formulated to be implemented on an ongoing basis. The methodology used in all these 3 modules is pretty much the same. So it's a combination of lecture, of group work and discussion, individual and group presentations, real-life case studies, video role play. We do real play too, where you take real examples from the work environment, create it into a role play situation, and we explore how best to work through those particular situations. There's individual tuition, some one-on-one coaching, coursework, and of course their action plans. Essentially, that's the effective service manager.